and salutations, listener, and welcome to another edition of the Coco and Daltz podcast. I'm not Coco.
And I'm not Daltz.
And we're going to talk today in this special year-end wrap-up podcast about things that we forgot to review or we just didn't get the time to do it.
Because we've been really busy during a pandemic going out and doing lots of things instead of just staying home and watching Netflix like everybody else.
Exactly. And maybe we were just a little bit lazy, or maybe in the case of one particular thing, we were like, yeah, we can't review that because it's just so terrible.
But we're going to review it anyways.
We're going to review it in like a mini pocket review in this one here. So what do we want to talk about first, Coco? You tell me, because you're the boss of this relationship.
That is absolutely incorrect, listener. Don't listen to him at all. So I know on your outline you have Lovebirds, which is a Netflix movie starring Issa Rae and Kumail Nanjiani. They play a couple who have been together for a while, but they're breaking up. And during the course of their breakup, they're involved in...
somehow
in a crazy murder. They spend all night on the lam from the cops. It's a comedy because it's clearly not rooted in any kind of reality, but it's actually really funny.
Yeah.
It's kind of the antidote to 2020. There's a lot of laughs in it. So if you're looking for something over the holiday weekend to lift your spirits as we head into a new year, which will hopefully be better, we recommend Lovebirds on Netflix.
Absolutely. And I like this one because it's so hard to find good comedies these days. And this is a romantic comedy, and it's not predictable. I mean, it's a bit trite in some ways because it's like, how fantastic is this situation? All of a sudden they're embroiled in a murder and drug scheme. Is like everyday couples, typically don't get involved with this kind of stuff.
We've been together like 4.5 years and we've managed not to be involved in murderous drug schemes at all.
Well, there is a chance. There is hope. I mean, there's lots of time left.
Yeah.
But yes, it was very well written, and I like the two leads in it. They have really good chemistry.
They were great.
Kumail Nanjiani is fantastic. I've actually started following him on Twitter as a result of watching this movie, and he's really funny on Twitter too. So I'm looking for more stuff with him in it. I thought maybe that he might have been, because he's a comedian, he might have been involved with the writing, but he wasn't actually. So, but still, thumbs up for that one, listener. Yeah, recommend.
If you didn't catch it when it came out over the summer, we recommend it now.
And there's not very many of these good ones out there. So these rom-coms, they ain't common out there when they're funny and they're actually not predictable. So recommend. What's the next one we want to talk about, Coco?
Oh, am I doing all of them?
Well, let's go to The Good Detective.
Okay.
Because it is a South Korean crime drama. It's a series, many episodes.
16, and they are all an hour long, listener, so be prepared.
So here's what happened is that Coco got fed up with my shenanigans one night and started watching The Good Detective on her own, and got into 2 or 3 episodes, and then was watching it. I was like, oh, what are you watching? And she told me, and I was like, oh, okay, I'll join in and see if I missed anything. And I actually didn't really miss much. It didn't take long for me to get right into the rhythm of this one. And it involves some corrupt cops, and it involves shenanigans in Incheon, South Korea. So not Seoul, which you think would be the place of this, but really good, really well done. What did you think of it, Coco? What did you like about it?
Yeah, I loved it. The first couple episodes are pretty rough. I said in my review on cocosbuzzblog.com, chickadee, check it out if you haven't, that I wasn't sure after the first couple episodes if I would keep watching, but I was invested enough in the main storyline to continue, and I'm glad I did, because even though it's 16 hour-long episodes, it is jam-packed.
Yeah,
there is a lot of action. There's good comedy. There's good poignant moments. It's a legal and crime thriller, so you get that aspect of it as well. So I really enjoyed it, and I really hope that they do season 2.
And so it's a young upstart detective joins the forces and is with an older veteran detective who has been around for a while, obviously, and has seen some stuff and has sort of like on the, not exactly in the favored house, sort of in the doghouse in this detective team. And then there's a bunch of other guys who are also detectives, and they're great.
They're all awesome.
Yeah, they're all funny, and they're very distinct personalities, and they're not necessarily stereotypes or the expected role of the younger guy or whatever. Like it's really good, and it was actually a pretty interesting concept. Is that the younger guy who joins the sort of co-lead is a rich guy who decides he wants to be a detective, so he doesn't really have to do it. And it presents some interesting situations in that him and the older detective are going back and forth, and it's very well done. And the dialogue is really good. Obviously, it's in Korean with subtitles if you're watching it in English.
On Netflix.
On Netflix. Yeah, on Netflix. And all these are actually on Netflix that we're talking about today.
And I also liked it because none of the detectives is some kind of savant.
Right.
Like if you listen to our review of Border Town earlier in the year, the main detective, he's got his like memory palace and he's able to intuit things that regular cops can't. And these weren't savant cops. They were just cops doing copping and going out and collecting the forensic evidence. And, nobody was deducing anything that... There wasn't like a 30-minute monologue at the end of every episode where the cop told you how he figured out this completely impossible scenario, because he's so brilliant. So,
and the bad guy is a cousin to the young upstart cop, and he was a really good bad guy.
Yeah.
Like, it's hard to play a bad guy and not be like, oh yeah, he's going to do this, and he's going to be misogynist, or he's going to be racist, or he's going to be something that's going to make us want to hate him. But this guy was, he was a little bit of all those things, but the way he played it was really well done, and I was really impressed. And the familial connection there was a very interesting dynamic too. So a very original story and very well done.
Yeah, 2 thumbs up for sure. We loved it.
Recommend.
Yes.
Another cop story that we want to talk about, which is
Rogue City. Like Dalt said, also on Netflix. It was released, I believe, at the end of October, maybe at the end of September. It's this time in France, taking place in Marseille, once again, about crooked cops and the drug trade in Marseille. It was, What did you think, Dalt?
Well, this one to me, so The Good Detective it's a cop drama, but it's not really gritty or violent in a bloody way. I mean, it does have its points of violence.
Yeah.
But this one is very gritty. To me, it's almost like I don't want people to laugh with my description, but it's almost like a modern day Miami Vice in some ways, because the cops all look like they're crooks, and the crooks are not necessarily distinguishable from the good guys and the bad guys. And the writing was really well done. The scenery. So what I thought, and I mentioned this when Coco and I were watching it, is there was a real contrast here, and the scenery was so beautiful, and everything was sunny and glorious, and yet they're doing all these nefarious, nasty, terrible things. So there's a darkness and a light there.
It was very much like White Lines in that respect.
Yes.
If you listen to our review of White Lines, which was also on Netflix back in May-ish or so, that took place in Ibiza, so very much the same kind of terrain and climate. And yeah, like Dalt said, you've got the contrast between this beautiful, lush, tropical, no cares in the world scenery, and then this very seedy underbelly of society.
And it's like a resort town, and there's all these bars and everything like that. And so if you're just a tourist bellying up to the bar or whatever, you're not even going to notice this stuff. But it's so great the way that they portrayed it. And what I liked about those two, the Good Detective in particular, but also this one, Rogue City, was when the guns come out, it's a shocking moment.
Right.
And this is definitely a stark contrast to any kind of North American crime drama or cop drama, is that there was one scene where the guy was like, oh, I shouldn't have taken my gun out, but I felt I needed to. And then there was an investigation about him bringing the gun out. And it was all really interesting the way that it was a glimpse into the non-gun culture of the other countries in the world. So I thought that was spectacular. Another recommend for sure.
And the end of that one, I did not see coming, actually.
Right.
Like you knew, so the cops in this, the main cops that the story focuses on, they don't start out corrupt, but they end up corrupt. And it just kind of is like a big snowball thing that just is out of, beyond their control. And then at the very end, like, you're actually rooting for them, even though they end up doing illegal, shady things.
Right.
You're actually rooting for them. But then at the end, I didn't see that coming, and I was sad.
Yeah.
Like
the ending was shocking for
Yeah.
sure. And also a glimpse into it doesn't have to be a Hollywood ending kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Very, very stark contrast. And the fourth movie that I want to talk about, and Coco is reluctant to talk about this one, I know, because it involves one of her heroes, but we also watched Hard Kill, starring Bruce Willis as a dad trying to get his daughter back.
This is also on Netflix, as Dalt said. Bruce Willis is a tech CEO whose AI program has fallen into the wrong hands, and the wrong hands have also kidnapped his daughter while they're at it.
And the bad guy for the wrong hands is played by a discount Bradley Cooper. I don't know the actor's name, but I don't want to embarrass him because he's terrible in this.
This movie, top to bottom, is terrible. I gave it a D- on cocosbuzzblog.com.
Yeah, and I can't remember what I gave it on cocoandadults.com, but it was definitely not a great movie. The acting is terrible. The stunts are pretty transparent that it's not the actors doing the actual stunts. And then there's also some scenes where, so one of the good guys in this mercenary band trying to get the daughter back gets shot in the chest,
like right above the heart,
very close to his heart, and yet at the end of the movie walks away with merely a limp, having not received any medical care in the interim.
Right, totally.
And also the part where somebody brings in another wounded soldier and finds a first aid kit. Meanwhile, the guy who was shot in the chest was sitting like right beside where the first aid kit was, and yet had not been given the first aid kit or didn't know it was there.
There are many reasons why this movie is completely horrible.
Yeah, Hard Kill is awful. And we watched Die Hard on Christmas because that's our tradition. And it was nice to see Bruce Willis in something. He was so good in that. It was like a palate cleanser for me.
One of the only good things you can say about Hard Kill is that it's only an hour and a half long.
Right.
And so when Dalton and I started watching it, like legit 2 minutes into the movie, the bad guy is delivering some horribly stilted, cheesy dialogue. And I'm just dying laughing because it's so terrible. And Dalton is like, let's just turn it off. And I'm like, no, I need to see exactly how bad this is. It's only an hour and a half. Like, this is a rainy Saturday. We got nothing else to do. Like, let's just ride this pony. And
I'm glad we did because it was Yuck's City.
It
like
totally
it was a
was.
lot of laughs out of that, and it's just embarrassing.
Unintentionally hilarious.
Yes.
Like Bruce Willis clearly just in this thing for a paycheck.
Yeah, it's sad to see sort of the trajectory of Bruce Willis's career in recent years as he's taken a lot of these like. He's only got one chance at redemption. And here it is. He makes a deal with so-and-so. It's kind of like an episode of The Mandalorian, as a matter of fact. Just do this one thing and I'll help you out.
Only a whole lot worse than The Mandalorian.
Oh, yeah,
like the quality of The Mandalorian is so much better than Hard Kill.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just talking about the storyline, but
I'm just biased though. So.
But Bruce Willis, awful, and everybody else awful in that movie. Well, the one guy was pretty good.
Jesse Metcalf plays the lead mercenary who's tasked with protecting Bruce Willis and trying to get the daughter back. I actually thought he did a pretty good job.
Yeah, he wasn't bad.
Yeah, I thought he was pretty believable. So when your lone bright spot is Jesse Metcalf, like the hot gardener from Desperate Housewives, maybe why don't we have a production deal with Netflix?
Right.
If the people who did Hard Kill can have a production deal, why don't Dalton and I have a production deal with Netflix? Because we can definitely churn out better scripts than that.
Well, and it was funny because the movie comes up and we watch the credits because we're cinephiles, so we watch the complete experience, and then the credits come up and it says, rate this movie. And I was like, thumbs down on that one. I don't have very many thumbs down, listener, on my collection of Netflix, but that's one of them.
So if you are also looking for something to do over the long weekend, Lovebirds, good laughs. Hard Kill, bad laughs.
Right. You can you can watch this if you want. Just
totally.
know what you're getting into.
Right. Yeah, there's a huge body count in this movie,
Well,
and it's pretty bad.
And the script is terrible because the story is like Bruce Willis has got some code that's gonna like shut down bank accounts and everything financial and technical across the world. Like it's just like, oh, I got 7 digits that will shut the world down. It's like, oh, just punch it into this computer and nobody has money in the bank account anymore. It's like, really? That's a thing?
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's what like Bernie might be fighting for actually. Just like wipe out everybody's debt and start anew.
Start fresh. Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually not too bad when you're like rooting for a terrorist to wipe out financial systems across the globe.
And also the we should move on, but there's so many great things about this movie to hate. It was the same three guys in the black suits with the hoods who were getting shot all the time.
Right.
So every time that they would come up with the guns and everything like that, the same three guys would get mowed down, and then they would go and get the stuff cleaned, and then they'd come back, and it was like an endless series of soldiers of the government or whoever they were for hire kind of thing. It was just terrible. Anyway.
So those are the 4 things that we forgot to review this year that we recommend mostly for your holiday weekend viewing pleasure if you are looking for something that isn't necessarily brand new, but that you haven't chickadee checked out yet. And they're newish. They're all from this year.
Yeah, exactly. And in this day and age, people are not watching things immediately when they come out because there's just too much selection, right? So
there's a lot of content out there.
There's a lot of content. We're in peak content right now.
Yeah, totes.
So I think that's going to be it for this edition of the podcast.
Thank you for sticking with us, listener. Like I said at the top, we are ending our 3rd year of the podcast.
Wow.
2021 will be our 4th year doing this. We thank you for sticking with us. We hope you continue to stick with us because we have good stuff ahead.
And many happy returns, listener, and hopefully 2021 is the year we turn it all around.
Amen, brother.
So happy New Year, and for another episode of the podcast, I'm not Coco.
And I'm not Dolls.